Hi everyone, so this is not part 2 of the Iron Maiden album rankings, and I will just go straight into it because number 9 is kind of, I feel a bit weird to say that I think their first album ever is better than their last one. Not by far, obviously, because of course the Book of Souls was number 10. I think that it's more interesting than, say, Killers, and it has a bit more of that raw kind of feel, and the songs sound pretty different from each other. At least it was described by Steve Harris as being kind of a best of compilation of the songs that they had been making since they were formed in 75. So this was, you know, of course it was gonna be at least very good in my opinion. I think Prowler is definitely not their best song, but it's quite fun and I think it works well as a first track. And Sanctuary is really more of a live song. And I think that Running Free is also one of those live songs. Some people have said this before, where the reason why there are so many lines that are repeated is because the kind of the audience is supposed to sing the second line and such. So, but I think that the songs are just more interesting than they're sometimes given credit for. Phantom, everyone loves Phantom of the Opera. I love it. This is definitely my favorite one from the album. And Transylvania I also really like, even though I don't really tend to like instrumentals much, but I really like that one. And I feel like ones like Strange World and Remember Tomorrow you kind of have to be in the mood for, but they're nice and soft songs that do feel pretty refreshing when you listen to the album front to back. And Charlotte the Harlot, I think it's quite nice with those harsher parts and then that softer middle part. And you know, the title track is again not their best one, but I think it's ideal to have it as the last track and it is fun. So the one that I would say is my least favorite is Running Free, but again I get why it's there and why it sounds the way it does. I definitely can hear that energy going on of like a band that's really excited about what they're doing and they have a lot of passion and they know that they are probably gonna get even better. So for me to put this I feel too high would kind of imply that they really haven't gotten that much better with time, and I feel that they really have. And obviously and of course it's also the fact that I like the album but I don't like it as much as the ones over it, obviously. So there's that. Number 8 is Brave New World, and I can definitely see why someone would fall in love with this album after having Virtual 11, but just in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's really quite that great. I definitely find a bit of that repetition in the chorus that was said about Virtual 11 before and is constantly said about it. But you know, the reason why it's so much better is because, like I said, I remember saying that Bruce sounded better for those songs that he sung from Virtual 11, and I think his voice is definitely much more appropriate for the sound of Brave New World, and it just sounds like they have gotten their passion back. And the songs, even though they're a little bit repetitive in some parts, they're still very interesting musically and lyrically. And most of the songs, I would say, are not exactly catchy, but I think for the most part they are the kind of click with you from the beginning. Now, I don't like them all equally. I think that Out of the Silent Planet is maybe the weaker one, as is the last track, so that's kind of crucial for me. But all the other tracks I really like, and they just flow together well. They all have a slightly different sound and they just have different things to offer. My favorite ones are Dream of Mirrors The Fallen Angel, The Mercenary, the title track, and The Weaker Man. So again, the fact that the title track, not the title track, but the first, the opener song is one of my favorites from the album really works for it. Works in favor of it because I care a lot about clearly I care a lot about the positions of these songs in the album. So it makes for a great listen as a full record. So number 7 is The Number of the Beast. I do think that this is a little, I know that lots of people do say that this is overrated, and I get that what that means is that there's better albums by them that are not given quite the credit that this one is given from the outside, I guess. So it's overrated in the sense that outsiders, because you know this is a very popular band, but usually people who know about them, you know, people who aren't like big fans of Maiden will usually be like, well, I listened to The Number of the Beast or whatever, when they have definitely made a couple better albums. So I wouldn't say this is bad at all, and I don't think any of these songs here are just bad or even mediocre, except maybe for Gangland. But I think that we all know and understand that this album is mostly known for 3 or 4 songs, although that does not mean that the other songs are not that good. It just means that they're not talked about as much. I think that Children of the Damned is really great. The Prisoner is too. Total Eclipse is really nice as well. And of course the title track and One to Heals, and especially Hallowed Be Thy Name, which is the anthem of a generation. Although Invaders, I would say, is pretty weak for an opener, and it is obviously saved as a whole by the last track. But I would say, I mean, I do think this is very satisfying to listen to, so if you told me that this is one of their worst albums, I would be like, I really don't understand why you would say that. But also if you told me that this is their absolute best album, I mean, I would understand, but I wouldn't agree. Number 6 is The X Factor. And I know that a lot of people feel very strongly about this album, mostly negatively about this album, and I don't want to introduce this ranking, this particular pick, by saying that you have to be in the mood for this album, because it just feels dishonest from me. I listen to music that, I mean, of course I listen to metal, but I also listen to things like gothic rock and post-punk, and things that some people would say are monotonous, slow, depressing, dark, or even boring. When people say that there is a darker tone on this album, I think that it is more of a sad kind of darker tone. And not all of the songs here are actually that melancholic. There's, for example, Judgment of Heaven, and the thing is that that tone and that sound was really fitting for the time that they were going through as a band. Not only have they lost 2 members, very important ones, I mean, they're all important, but you know, Bruce, the vocalist, and of course the guitarist had been there for a very long time. And I think Steve was going through divorce at the time, so it wasn't a forced change of sound. It was something that simply made sense, and it was a change that I think was natural at the time. Obviously, I wasn't even alive when this came out. I think that for the most part, Blaze Bailey's voice does fit the sound of this album. His voice is deeper, and in general, it would fit the best if they hadn't kind of forced him to try to go higher. I know a lot of people say this, but this is especially painful in the last track, The Unbeliever, which is also one of my least favorite ones. That one and Judgment of Heaven are my least favorite tracks from this album, but I still love it. It just offers a more emotional take on the themes that they had used before, like war and death, and especially songs like 2 a.m. That one is not just emotional, that one is very personal as well. I feel like someone, and some people would say that those lyrics or song in general are just kind of like pathetic. I mean, and I guess, I mean, the word pathetic is in the lyrics themselves, but it just feels really raw and it's quite visceral. But I think that's the reason why it's really powerful in a way, because you know that it was a genuine feeling of the writer of this lyric. Like I said, you might find this album kind of monotonous and kind of like all the songs are just the same as the previous one, but I really don't find it, or at least you could see that, but I think it really builds into the feeling of the album itself. The Cure's Pornography, that album is really suffocating in the sense that every song is using kind of like the same instruments in a very similar way, and the songs do sound a little bit like each other, but that's because they have this really suffocating mood of like the depression and guilt and all these negative feelings that when they are expressed in a certain ways, they are actually really beautiful. So I think it's the similarities between the songs that aren't even that stark, I would say, in the X Factor, that give you this claustrophobic feeling while you are listening to it um front to back. I think it was Color Killer Nation who said something like, listen to this album as a whole, like the whole thing at night while you have a couple candles lit or something like that. My favorite ones are Sign of the Cross, Lord of the Flies, Man on the Edge. I think The Aftermath is a really beautiful one as well. 2 a.m. Those are definitely my favorite ones there, and just, you know, just kind of appreciate it for what it is. So I don't want to say that they did the best they could considering the circumstances, but it's more like those circumstances allowed this album to be as good as it is. And again, it's not as great as, it clearly isn't in top 5 from them. So I don't want to exaggerate my feelings about this album, but I think it's definitely underrated as a whole, this album entirely. Or sometimes when people say positive things about it, they will just go straight for Sign of the Cross, and like all the other songs are just like whatever. And again, even though they all have a similar mood, I think they all have different themes and they offer something different. So this album just has a lot to give, I think.